Crime and Punishment. This novel is regarded as one of the most outstanding and timeless novels. It was written by another Russian novelist, Fyodor Dostoyevsky, in 1866. It is classified as a crime, suspense, and psychoanalysis novel. In psychoanalysis, the author delves in the analysis of the self and the whims that strike it. In Crime and Punishment, the author delves in the analysis of the self and the whims that strike it. He discusses how the human self carries a contradiction within itself. What's with Russians and contradictions? Anyway, it includes the highest levels of ideals, yet also hides the worst of moralities. They should really cheer up. It carries justice and the desire to fulfill it, yet it contains the desire to commit crimes. The novel tells the story of a young man called Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov, who's 23 years old. Rodion is impoverished, university ex-student. He has a contradictory and dual personality, kind of like the Joker, minus the makeup, who hates society and is indifferent towards it. But he's also a loving and warm and compassionate person. Rodion comes from an average family and lives in extreme poverty, and because of his temerity, stupidity, and distorted thinking, he thinks that redeeming himself from his financial crisis, he is in his miserable situation that's going to happen suddenly by a single stroke of luck. And then he can live the good life. His stroke of luck was to kill an old, stupid, deaf, and greedy moneylender who does not care for anyone, nor does she feel compassionate towards any of her poor creditors. Yeah, she's a loan shark. She never regrets destroying other people's life, and all she dreams about is to gain more and more interest from her money. Yeah, she's definitely a loan shark. Wonder from what family, though. She even destroys her sister's life and tortures her, although her sister cared for her. The novel's protagonist is an old woman who offends the world around her, and she must be eliminated. She is old, and she might die within a few months, so why wait? I wouldn't. Especially if she's bleeding me dry for money. Know what I mean? Raskolnikov, the novel's protagonist, commits this crime and kills the old moneylender, dreaming of helping his mother and sister to pursue his university education. After committing the crime, a complex psychological process starts. I think it's called thinking. The murderer begins to see the outcomes of his crime and starts to be tormented by his conscience. He's now trapped between the good and evil desires that God has created in the human self and the law that humans have created. This internal conflict leads him to seek solitude and break away from people. His psychological agony and remorse continue to haunt him so much that he decides to willingly accept his fate in the hands of the law so he can finally atone for his crime. But he already knows that the punishment that the law orders will not be harsher than his internal agony. Kind of like when you have that cavity that you don't want to go to the dentist for because you're scared, but then you end up going anyway. Kind of like that. Despite that, he decides to surrender himself to the law and get a court hearing. During his imprisonment, Raskolnikov goes through a human experience that restores his humanity. He falls in love, don't we all, with a prostitute called Sonia. No, we don't. Not all of us. Not that I'm judging. Whom he knew through her drunken father. What a family! who forced her into prostitution for money. You can't get good parenting these days, can you? This is how love can change psychological structure of the stray young man, besides the physical punishment that he endured in prison. And I'm sure he endured a lot of punishment.